What's going on, peeps? Welcome to my first instalment of a series of short chapters looking at the precarious and occasionally squalid world of TV and other multimedia advertising. And before we dive into the proverbial deep end, let me please explain why. We all love the BBC, don't we? And as much as some may want to, we cannot escape the unambiguous fact that the BBC is owned by us, the British public, you, me, friends and family. We all pay our annual share with the intention that our precious national treasure remains unscathed, unimpaired and operational. We adore this mighty and very costly institution because of its history.
BBC Television. This is the switchboard of Picture Page, a topical magazine introducing visitors, types and personalities. You're through. You're looking at Pipe Major Massey, the bagpipes man from Trafalgar Square.
Now look here. I have not come here to be made a laughingstock. No, please. Remember where you are and temper your hilarity with a modicum of reserve. Have you heard this one?
The British Broadcasting Corporation came into existence on January the 1st, 1927, with its first Director General, John Reith, a Scottish Calvinist. Okay, you might not know what a Calvinist is, so I'll give you a brief definition. A Calvinist refers to someone who chooses to follow the theological traditions and forms of Christian practice set down by John Calvin, who decided to break away from the Roman Catholic Church in the 16th century. And their fundamental belief is that God communicates knowledge of himself to people through the Word of God. There is a lot more to Calvinism, but I believe that this particular and rudimentary belief is very relevant to what we are diving into. Reith was appointed the BBC's first Director General because of his moralistic approach and ability to represent its purpose and stated values. The new corporation adopted the coat of arms, including the motto, "Nation shall speak peace unto nation." Until 1929, the BBC's main emphasis was of course radio transmissions. But that all changed when John Logie Baird, a Scottish electrical engineer and innovator from Helensburgh, and as we all know, inventor of the television, well, he set up the Baird Television Development Company, which in 1929 made the first television programmes officially transmitted by the BBC. And the rest is of course history. We embrace the talent and polished professionalism of its multitude of employees.
6:30, it's Friday the 14th of October. Let's tell you what's coming up on the programme. We're going to be joined by Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. We'll talk to her about plans for a second referendum on independence.
I'm sorry, we've very clearly run the wrong pictures over that particular sequence.
But as far as the here and now is concerned, for tomorrow, just be prepared for Thor and his lightning bolts.
I'll give you some tips later. The big box, little box thing, that would really work. Apparently not.
Its impartiality with regard to topical affairs.
There just seems to be a total lack of comprehension on this panel, and indeed amongst this audience, which is a remarkable audience, even by the left-wing standards of the BBC. I mean, this lot's pretty left-wing.
Hang on a second.
But very
hang on a
interesting.
second.
When you talk
Nigel,
about
let me
housing,
just say one thing.
Yeah.
This is an audience that has been carefully chosen, not
Very
by the
carefully.
BBC, not by the BBC, but
Yes.
by an independent polling organisation to represent the balance between all parties.
Never a great
Very good.
Very good.
Very good.
But ladies and gentle punters, albeit in my own humble opinion, my intuition resulting from the process of cognition compels me to declare that we cherish this beloved quintessentially British carbuncle because there are no pesky adverts. Thing is, dear peeps, I rather like TV adverts, always have done, especially nowadays when there is such a colossal amount of mundane tea time quiz shows. Early evening reality monotony, cookery bollocks.
See what that tastes like. can you tell us about your flapjack place?
Started making it, had a breakdown. Bon appetit.
Wannabe X, Y and Z generation comedians whose only chance of making me laugh would be if they were to die on stage. TV tragedy. So you see, I think adverts are good. The history of advertising, marketing, promotion can be traced to ancient civilization. Egyptians used papyrus to make sales messages and wall posters. Political campaign displays have been found at the ruins of Pompeii. Town criers during the medieval times of Europe would accept monetary gratuities from local retailers and tradesmen to shout out the vendor's name and the services they had to offer. But it wasn't until the mid-19th century when advertising became a major force in capitalist economies, based primarily on newspapers and magazines, and that's when the trace of bullshit really started to fill the nostrils of the gullible consumer. Trouble was, though, the consumer was unwilling to realise the pungent, rancid stench of bullshit. They preferred to think of it as a sweet scent, more akin to a bouquet of freshly picked roses. They believed what they saw and what they read within the pages of daily and weekly print. It had to be true. It's in the paper. Oh. The 20th century. No, not funny. No. Okay, that's funny. Exploitation of the gullible consumer, both here and across the pond, continued upon its devious path, sucking in millions of innocent minds and turning the vessels of those minds onto some of the most dangerous, poisonous, life-threatening, life-shortening products of their time. And with the influx of millions upon millions of mass-produced and relatively cheap television sets dropping into the living rooms of anyone who could afford one, and with the advent of commercial TV networks during the 1940s and 1950s both here and across the pond, big business was laughing. They were loving it. The first ever television advert was broadcast in the United States on July the 1st, 1941.
America runs on bull of the time.
Commercial TV networks on the other side of the Atlantic relied exclusively upon revenue created by big business who would pay extraordinary amounts of cash in order to advertise their products during these short interludes amid big sports events and pioneering TV shows.
You do a lot of work with boys.
Not work, Al. I like baseball and kids. I enjoy helping teenagers start right.
Oh, that's around shaving age. And you give them pointers on personal appearance, too?
Yes. A boy has more self-respect when he's clean shaved. I tell him to use a Gillette razor, Al.
Choose your Gillette Super Speed Razor. $1.29 with Gillette Blue Blade dispenser and handy travel case.
But it wasn't until almost 15 years after that very simple, almost test card-like Bulova ad when the great British public witnessed their very own first ever television commercial.
It's tingling fresh. It's fresh as ice. It's Gibbs SR toothpaste, the tingling fresh toothpaste that does your gums good too. The tingle you get when you brush with SR is much more than a nice taste. It's a tingle of health. It tells you something very important, that you're doing your gums good and toughening them to resist infection. And as this chart shows, gum infection is the cause of more tooth losses than decay itself. The tingle in SR comes from sodium ricinoleate, a substance which both dental research and years of use in dental practice have shown to be good for the gums. So, to keep your teeth white as snow, your gums really healthy, and your breath really fresh, see your dentist regularly and brush with SR, the tingling fresh toothpaste for teeth and gums. Gibbs SR.
In 1954, both the House of Commons and the House of Lords passed an act of government designed to break the monopoly on television held by the BBC. And on September the 22nd, 1955, ITV was launched. Commercial heaven was here to stay, and the bullshit commenced.
Take it, Master Control.
Time out for many men of medicine usually means just long enough to enjoy a cigarette. And because they know what a pleasure it is to smoke a mild, good-tasting cigarette, they're particular about the brand they choose. In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels for the next 30 days and see what a difference it makes in your smoking enjoyment? See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good-tasting a cigarette can be.
The 21st century, and you don't need me to remind you, has been around for almost 23 years. And fortunately, and I say fortunately with deliberation and sincerity, because I unreservedly mean it, I'll say it again, fortunately, with regard to the malodorous realm of advertising, nothing much has changed. The bullshit remains, and we can actually smell the bullshit for what it is. But nowadays, it seems that the more putrid the stench, the more likely it is that we will end up creasing up on the floor, begging for oxygen.
So, what are we going to call her?
Fanny. I want to call her Fanny.
We can't call her Fanny. Fanny, I like it. It's unusual, unique.
My mum's a Fanny. Granny was a Fanny. She'll be joining a long line of Fannies.
Aye, it's good to keep up tradition.
Oh, Fanny, you're just like your daddy.